I'm Roy Peachey. I work for Mary's Meals as a Regional Development Officer, and I'm also an author. Two most recent books are Jack's Acorn, a children's novel, and The Garden of Perfect Clarity, which is a literary novel for adults. Stefan was great. I mean, Stefan was a great student, I have to say. Slightly challenging class, I have to say that as well. But there were some students you could rely on, and Stefan was definitely one of those. Feels very strange coming full circle, really, when Stefan, this eminent man now, used to be in my GCSE English class. More recently, came back in contact again, and absolutely delighted to see what he's doing and how he's got on after all these years. And I'm sure it was all down to those GCSE English lessons. And although we were in a Catholic school, I wasn't a Catholic at the time. My first degree was in history, and I was really interested in Reformation history. So I studied international Calvinism, I was really interested in Lutheranism, and even though I moved away from that Protestant evangelicalism of my university years, I still had lots of residual Protestant hang-ups. When I started to consider the faith seriously for the first time, my fiance of the time, now my wife, who was and is a very good Catholic, said, let's go and meet some friends of mine in Yorkshire, only for me to discover that these friends of hers in Yorkshire were Benedictine monks at Ampleforth. And I'd never met a monk before. I had no idea what this was all about. We went on a very long walk together over the North York moors, and I just fired at him all my old, slightly tired Protestant objections about the role of Our Lady, about the role of the Pope, about transubstantiation, every one I could dredge up from my historical studies, really. And very calmly, this great priest just dealt with them all one by one. And so by the time we finished this hike over the North York moors, I was kicking myself thinking, I'm going to have to take this seriously. When I converted, it took me a little while longer to really see how my faith worked through in every area of my life. All through that time, I was, I guess, a secret scribbler. I wrote lots of books, and I sent those books off to publishers. Once the itch is there to write, you can't get rid of it. I find it really difficult to summarise The Garden of Perfect Clarity. It's a book that tells the story of one boy as he grows up through childhood into adulthood and then into old age. It's about one character's search for liturgical completion. I suppose I was in some ways trying to write Dickens for the 21st century. Dickens travels to China. I think it's really important that Catholic writers don't simply churn out Catholic propaganda. The whole point about the Catholic faith is that it is Catholic. It encompasses the whole of reality. A lot of that thinking that I was doing for my PhD probably percolated through into my fiction as well. So Jack's Acorn really came out of lockdown. I took my dog for an increasingly lengthy walk, and my poor dog didn't know what had hit it. And as I went on this long dog walk, I just worked out the whole plot in my head. It's a funny story for children. It's a myth retold, or a fairy story retold, but it has a serious point behind it, and it moves towards that at the end of the book. So if you're a sixth former and you're writing and you're wondering how on earth this is ever going to turn into a real book, a published book, I would say persevere, be persistent. I wrote for years and years and years until I was in my late 40s before a publisher snapped up my first book. Keep going. Don't worry too much about the rejections, because the rejections will come. Learn the craft as well. Read other people's books voraciously. Look at the way in which they put their books together. Learn lessons from other people. Be humble enough to learn. Try things out, experiment. Live life as well, and then you will become a great writer yourself. I would tell my 16-year-old self to explore the Catholic faith. The joys that we have as children can continue to be the joys we have as adults. One particular project I'm working on is a new novel for adults, a novel which starts off, it looks like it's going to be a novel about dementia, but actually it's really a novel about married love.